So the Bad Batch Season 3 Episode 4 A Different Approach just dropped, and I must say, the ending came as a complete surprise. An emotional, tense, conflicted reunion. I'm very pleased the story is moving as fast as it is. We're only 2 weeks in, 4 episodes in, with the majority of the season still to go, and the batch is already reunited. A surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. One member's reaction I really want to see happen, which we didn't because he's off with Rex, is that of Echo. More on this in a bit. The final season truly means business. I love how much was accomplished in this episode considering the way it started, and I've got to merit it not just for its plot, but individual character growth for Crosshair and Omega. Watching them have to compromise, trying out each other's methods of completing the mission, negotiating, and having a renewed dynamic which is very novel to us, the audience. This was a different and refreshing Crosshair to what we know. Hearing Omega out, seeing her as an equal, not just the kid, which is what he used to call her. Now he uses her name. He still protests and is still good old Crosshair, but he comes around in the end. His overall attitude towards Omega has changed. And there is one specific scene when he's told to stop wasting time complaining, where as an audience member you feel a sense of satisfaction, because as much as we adore Crosshair, that is something he needed to be told from Season 1. Stop wasting time moping around. Having Crosshair actually cooperate and be there for his sister makes him a much more effective, daring, and well-rounded member of the group. And I like the nuance they bring to it. He's still Crosshair, but fundamentally, and I'm sorry to keep using this term, he's seen the light, and he's trying. And one contrast I particularly love is the difference between Crosshair's very rigid and strategic approach, and let's be real here, often soaked in pessimism, compared to Omega, whose modus operandi is to act with her heart, and oftentimes her compassion often leads to a lack of efficiency, oftentimes they get in trouble, but as Michelle Ang said, Omega is the heart and soul of this show, whether it was prioritizing finding Batcher or wanting to return to Tantis to save other clones. Crosshair's accusation towards her being naive is accurate. She's kept her childlike innocence, and the downtrodden reality of situations don't get her down. But it must be said, despite that side of Omega, there is a new one that has emerged, one who is a little scoundrel, one who is more worldly, is able to swindle, gamble, bribe, and lie. I was getting the vibe of a young Boba from her, so that is definitely something new to do with her character. And I love the way at one point, the Imperial Captain Man assumes Crosshair is Omega's dad, and their father and daughter. That was a deliberate nod at the audience. So now that the batch is back together, I can't wait to see the first interaction Crosshair is going to have with Wrecker and Hunter, who are very angry, pissed off, but also conflicted to see him again. The rage in their faces was obvious, but can you blame them? It makes sense. Crosshair really screwed them. They've ended up in such bad predicaments because of him. Crosshair was loyal to the Empire, he felt his brothers cast him aside, and there was vengeance. He's put his brothers through so much. Many of the defeats and blows taken by Clone Force 99 could very much have been avoided had Crosshair stayed with them. There are conversations to be had, arguments to resolve, healing to be done, but I think eventually they're going to welcome him back with open arms. If he can prove he shares their motives and will be on their side, loyal to them once again, the batch could very much use his help, which they will do, and as I covered when the full trailer released, they've already spoiled the fact they're going to give him his old Season 1 armor back, and he's going to fight the Empire alongside his brothers once more. Hemlock is mainly after Omega, but he wants both of them back, and up against bounty hunters, assassins, as well as full funding that the Empire requires. That is going to be very difficult for our batch. I think the biggest reason they had the batch reunite this soon is because that was never meant to be the biggest bulk of Season 3. The plot was never going to be just Wrecker and Hunter getting Omega back. It was always going to involve more confrontations with the Empire, the involvement of other characters, such as the eventual return of Asajj Ventress. We're going to get Wolf, Rex, Echo. It's not Omega being back with her brothers, it's what's going to come next, and if the Empire is successful or not in getting her back. The pacing of this episode, as well as the 3-episode premiere, proves this is going to be a bumpy, emotional, and probably tragedy-ridden ride. So that is my analysis and speculation about the themes, where the story is headed, and the ending explained. But now let's talk about some of the more surface-level events, some Easter eggs, and callbacks. When Crosshair and Omega land on Lao, they dressed as civilians. This was both pretty hilarious. I got a good chuckle out of it, but was also a nice callback to Star Wars Rebels Season 4, the episode The Occupation, when the Ghost crew also had to change into civilian outfits to blend in. It's a comedic little thing Star Wars has been doing since the days of the Clone Wars, having our characters do the when in Rome thing, blending into various surroundings on different worlds. So I did quite enjoy that touch. Another little reference that is very much a blink and you'll miss it, or should I say hear it, is in the animal escape scene, when it's time for Omega to compromise and do things Crosshair's way, which is to storm the spaceport. When the ostrich-like creatures were escaping, if you listen closely, you can hear that they use the same sound effect for Porgs from The Last Jedi on Octo Island. By the way, just a side note, those big ostrich velociraptor type things were very unexpected, but I kind of dig them. As a massive Star Wars fan, but also a Jurassic fan, I was in my element. Now the main thing about the planet and the town of Lao is that it is one of the most prominent displays of Imperial corruption that we've ever seen. It felt right out of Andor. This Imperial Captain Man was without a doubt the most insufferable, dishonourable, untrustworthy and bloated Imperial we've seen in a very long time. Voiced by the wonderful Harry Lloyd, Captain Man used his position and his authority to steal, rig and swindle various members of his town. They all know when he walks into a room, he's in control. A physical walking manifestation of Imperial arrogance. The thumb that keeps people oppressed, pushes them down. The minute he loses money at gambling, he makes it back, with trumped up charges that don't exist, claiming gambling is illegal, inventing tariffs and fines. This guy was very bad news, but he was allowed to operate on that planet, just as many Imperials were. The Empire creates rules on a whim, breaks them as if they're nothing. This kind of self-empowerment and bloated egotism is endorsed. The pace of repression outstrips our ability to understand it. The Empire is a disease that thrives in darkness, and it is never more alive than when we sleep. As I say, lots of Andor influence in this final third season. Omega once again shows prowess for various games. In Season 1 it was Dedrick, and now we see her place her back. She does deserve some credit for being a tactician and a strategist. Some fans think later in the timeline, when she is much older, this could put her on course with someone like Thrawn. It'll be interesting to see if and when this is ever explored. So, in terms of depth, in terms of the themes, the character exploration, on top of the way the episode ends in a meaningful capacity, I'm probably going to give this episode a 9 out of 10. Episode 3 Shadows of Tantis is still my top favourite for the first 4 episodes, but in general, this episode was phenomenal. I do have some more things to say about it, and I will be sharing those over this next week, so make sure you're subscribed and hit the notification bell to never miss an upload. But with that said, my dear friends, what did you think of the episode? Share your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.